Hello and welcome to our Friday night edition of True Crime and Wine Couple. Today we're going to be discussing the Gypsy Rose Blanchard prison tapes special, the first episode, season 1, episode 1. They made every episode a season. It was weird.
Yeah, they do that sometimes. I don't like when they do that.
So we just watched it and we're going to talk a little bit about what it was about and our impressions. In case you don't want to watch it, but you want to know what it was about. We watch it so that you don't have to.
And today we are going to be drinking a white wine. Here we go, that we got down in Maryland, outside of Ocean City. The name of the winery is Crow Vineyard, and we'll get into that a little bit more at the end of the video. But cheers. And
cheers. If you don't have your wine already, go grab some and come on back and you can hear about Gypsy's
absolutely
prison tapes.
Today is the day before my parole hearing, and I will finally share my story the way that it should be shared.
No, you could never take my soul.
So the first episode was basically, it talked about her life in prison. Started out with a little bit with her life in prison. And then it started breaking down her birth, you know, they had interviews with her parents, interviews with family members, uncles, her grandfather, and it basically chronicled, you know, her life.
up to a point.
Right.
It seems that they're going.
Right, yeah, it was basically her birth up until before she even started plotting the murder, right? It was that.
They were still in Louisiana.
They were,
so
okay.
Yeah, so they hadn't moved. They hadn't moved yet. So that's where the first episode sort of stuck in that time range.
So some of the details about her incarceration were that she was arrested in 2015 and she served 7 out of 10 years. And she only had one opportunity to have a parole hearing. I guess it was after 7 years she had the parole hearing, and then if she didn't get the parole at the hearing, then she had to serve her 10 and it
Serve
was
her
10 and
full
done.
10,
Right.
right.
I found that interesting. I didn't know that. And she said that she admitted to playing a part and asking Nicholas to kill her mother. And she said she wanted to come clean and be free of secrets.
Yeah.
And at the beginning, I kind of was struck by fake tears. It seemed like she was fake crying at the beginning. But then the more she spoke, my compassion really kicked in. And I could see why people, you know, feel the way they do about her. Because I'm kind of on the fence because of the crime and everything and what, you know, Nicholas and stuff. But you felt a lot of compassion for her. It was very interesting. The abuse started when she... around 4 years old, but her medical, well, the abuse.
Okay,
yeah.
We'll get into that.
Yeah, the medical history actually began when she was only an infant. She was 4 months old, and she had sleep apnea. So Dee Dee took her to the doctor for sleep apnea, and her dad said he was only involved in her life for about a couple months, right?
Not long, yeah.
It was a few months,
yeah. He, I guess they got married very well. They were 17 when she got pregnant.
And he was 18 when she was born, right?
Yeah, and they were, and he was like, after 3 months, he's like, I can't do this.
Right.
You know, I don't love you. You know, I'm not staying around. So he left. He got married. What, like a year later?
It was a year later. And then he had another child. Yeah, then he had. But that's who
he's still married to, though.
They are still together.
They've been together that whole time.
Yeah, her stepmother Christy, right?
Yeah,
they're still together. So I guess when the sleep apnea started, then there was more issues with the lazy eye before she was 1.
Yeah, there was some sort of eye disease. They actually did give it a name, and the doctor said that in that particular case, she actually did need the surgery, because if she didn't get the surgery, she could have gone blind.
And speaking of that, I don't want to get off track here, but they interviewed her pediatrician, and he was shocked by the medical records.
That he had never received.
It was just, oh my God, it was what, 1 year, and they had like 2. It was
just a stack of
It was
crap.
like a 6-inch binder.
Yeah.
It was huge. So yeah, and he was surprised. I found that interesting.
I found a lot of parts. I don't even know if I just describe them as interesting, more disturbing. But we'll get into that. That was one of them, though. I guess she was very good at hiding her tracks, covering her tracks. And I know that she used the hurricane, and they did not get to this part yet in the thing, but I know that she used the hurricane as an excuse to not have any records. But yeah, he's like, this is the first time I've seen it. I guess the producers of the documentary are the ones that were able to gather all these medical records.
And it seems like, well, Dr. Phil always says things often start for one reason and continue for another. And it seems like the things that happened in Gypsy's infancy got the mom attention. She was probably going through the divorce. She was very young herself.
Yeah.
And it seems like that's, what perpetuated the problem and probably, put the idea in her head. Although mom did have other crimes. We'll talk about those too. Gypsy didn't even attend 1 year of school. They said she was very excited to go to school. It was kindergarten, but her mother took her out because of the fact that she, oh, by the way, this contains spoilers. I guess we should have given a spoiler alert at the beginning. We're just starting out, we're learning. So yeah, she pulled her out before she could even finish kindergarten because she said she couldn't get her medication in school.
Yeah, she didn't trust them to give them the
Which
medications correctly.
Anybody, yeah, I'm sure she just wanted control.
Oh, yeah.
The nurse will give, anybody who works at a school knows,
Yeah.
you give the meds to the nurse gives it to the kid. And then, so as the abuse continued, then she got in that motorcycle accident.
With her grandfather.
Right. So that's what led to the wheelchair. She got her leg scraped up. They put her. Then Dee Dee made a big deal of it and put her in the splint and stuff like that.
Right, she had like a brace or something.
And then what was interesting was the family said that she went to visit them. Dee Dee went to the store. And she got out of the wheelchair and was hopping on the trampoline with the kids.
Yeah, this is where it started really. I started to get the disturbing part of it to me was, and we'll get into it more. But this was just the first instance that they mentioned in this documentary where Gypsy was in a wheelchair. Dee Dee had convinced everybody that she needed the wheelchair. Dee Dee had to run out to the store or something. They were over at Gypsy's grandparents, and they had a trampoline in the backyard. And Gypsy wanted to go on the trampoline, so she got out of the wheelchair just fine. Went over, was jumping around on the trampoline. But then as soon as Dee Dee came home, Gypsy just like collapsed and pretended she couldn't walk. So, and then she was very young at that point. She wasn't. I mean, she must have been kindergarten, first grade. So
yeah, that was Let's talk about some of the really disturbing things.
okay.
Okay, so one of the super disturbing things I found that Gypsy said that the first time she felt free was in prison. She said she was in prison. She went outside into the courtyard and said to herself, I'm free. I can have friends. I can have a life. And that just hit me like a ton of bricks. Like, I can't even imagine prison feels like freedom to that girl.
Right.
You know what I mean? To that young woman. It's crazy. Another thing that really, that being a woman, I'm sure any woman can understand this, having her head shaved, that had to have been devastating for that poor, and she does have beautiful hair. And it had to have been devastating for the poor kid. I mean, that's got to just do something to your psyche as a girl.
Yeah.
That really bothered me. And then there's more. Pete can talk more about some of. Then there's some allegations with the grandfather too that we were confused about that.
Do you want me to get into that a little bit? Because that's sort of that really was weird to me because. They brought this up towards the end of the episode, and during the episode they're doing interviews with the father, they're doing interviews with the stepmother, but they were all along, and they never brought this up in the beginning. They're doing interviews with the grandfather, they're doing interviews with the uncle, they're doing interviews with the cousin, so they're doing all these family interviews, and then maybe in the last 15 minutes they're like, oh, and by the way. There's allegations of abuse, sexual abuse.
Essay.
There's allegations against your grandfather, and I'm like, wait a minute, haven't they been interviewing him the whole time, and now they're bringing this
Yeah.
up? It was so weird.
They just
the way
kinda
they just sort of
drop it.
sprung it on you, like this guy's been talking the whole time, and now all of a sudden they're bringing it up. And I'm not. Mary could probably speak better to this than I can because she knows the psychology of it and everything. But they finally, once they brought that up to us, they brought it up to the grandfather and said, by the way, Gypsy's alleging this, and this. And first he was like, no. And then he said that, well, it was her. She was doing it, and I had to keep telling her no, and I had to keep telling her to stop. And even I, who doesn't know anything about psychology or the criminal mind or these predators, know that as soon as they start spinning it and just blaming the victim, that is they're all their fault, that's almost screaming, I'm guilty. That's the way I took it. And even you could tell he was very uncomfortable, and his head was spinning, trying to come up with an explanation.
The way he spoke too about, I played with her and I fed her, it just reeked of grooming.
Yeah.
And that's another thing. I know there's allegations that Dee Dee was essayed by her father as well.
Right.
So
it's the same guy. So Claude is the grandfather / father.
A lot of French Cajun genes in that family.
Yeah.
Very French. Yeah, heavy.
The accents
heavy,
are really.
And it's really cool if you're into like travel and you want to. It's a cool. They have some cool shots of New Orleans.
Very, yeah.
So what I was thinking was that if the same thing did happen to Dee Dee and she was essayed by her father, she not only learned that, but she learned the grooming process because he would have groomed her.
Right.
So she learned how to groom a kid for abuse, in my opinion.
And I just don't understand any of that. It just because I guess in my brain I can't even fathom that somebody doing that. But okay, so the allegations are that he did that to Gypsy, but that he also did it to Dee Dee.
Dee Dee too, yeah.
Why would Dee Dee choose
Exactly.
to bring them into that situation?
Because I'm assuming this is my speculation. I think she felt more control if she was with her father, with Dee Dee's father than her own father. I think she wanted, I think she probably knew that, that her father would keep her stuff secret. Because he even talked about how well she ate. Because then at one point they said, Dee Dee said she had developed this, aversion to eating, this fear of eating.
Well, she was on a feeding tube.
The feeding tube, yeah. And then she's at the grandfather's house.
Eating French fries.
Eating everything, yeah. So I don't know why they didn't. But then again, like I told Pete, I said these people like Dee Dee are such master manipulators that nobody wants to deal with them.
And I mean, like I said, we've only watched this. We've only seen the first episode. We're gonna do it one at a time. But it seemed like Gypsy was never really allowed or able to stay with her father and her stepmother.
No.
They never mentioned her being over there alone.
Well, her father did say that they had a very frail relationship, and Dee Dee made it more difficult. He he said something like that in the beginning, didn't he? Something to that effect.
So I think maybe that did play into it because she didn't want her over to her father's because her father would see through the craziness right away. So I think she kept them away from that. So maybe that's why she brought it into that house, and maybe because of all the crap that he did, she knew he wouldn't say anything. Right? I mean, sort of like you got this on me, but I got this on you kind of thing. I don't know.
Speaking of feeding tubes and disturbing, so then they had a and Pete was disturbed when I said the answer before they said it. They had an expert about, they called it Munchausen by proxy, but now the DSM has been updated and it is factitious disorder imposed upon another. That's what it's really called. I don't know what they do that all the time, like Down syndrome. The people who discovered it used to be called Down syndrome, and the people who discovered it didn't want to be affiliated with it, so they changed it to Down syndrome. They do that when they name syndromes all the time. Like if you study genetics, they change syndromes all the time. So anyway, they said that was a favorite. That's a favorite abuse of a parent who is imposing factitious disorder on their child to use the feeding tube. And I said immediately, it's complete control. You know, because you as a parent can't control everything your child eats. You know, your child might leave you and go somewhere and eat. But with a feeding tube, you can control everything that goes into their body. You know what I mean? So that made sense to me, but it's also terrible to think of, like, you know, well, it is a very rare, I mean, we know, in the media, the only one we know of besides her is Eminem. Eminem was a victim of it too.
Right.
And he raps about it. And he even sued his mother and all kinds of stuff.
Mother was Debbie, right?
Yeah, he sued Debbie. Yeah. So that was interesting. Well, that was disturbing as well. And then speaking of, so Dee Dee was not without her own criminal history.
No, not at all.
Two things, right? First, so she committed a lot of financial crimes, a lot of bad checks. And they talked about how when Gypsy was younger, this was before they got the Habitat for Humanity house. So she moved all over the place to try to get away from her crimes. You know what I mean? And then how about the dad's what? Her father's wife?
So apparently, Dee Dee's mom passed away, and he remarried very quickly, like within a year of her passing. And I guess they did not get along at all. Dee Dee did not like this woman. The woman did not like her. So apparently what Dee Dee was doing was, when she was making dinner, she would put Roundup in this woman's food. And the only way they found out was, I guess Gypsy saw her doing it, and one day Gypsy was with the grandfather, and I guess the grandfather had the Roundup, and Gypsy said to him, "Oh, that's the vitamins that Mommy puts in
whatever the woman's name was, food.
Luann or something like that, I think it was. Those are the vitamins that Mommy puts in her food." And this woman died.
Out of the mouth of babes.
Yeah. This woman died, and they think it was from the Roundup.
Well, and I know there was all those allegations of like farmers and stuff using it, getting cancer and stuff, and they had that class action lawsuit. So imagine it in somebody's food.
No.
If you can't even use it on your crops, you know what I mean?
Exactly. So yeah, that was. A lot of stuff came out in just this first 40 minutes of this. It was amazing.
Another thing that I found interesting is this whole thing that's going on with Gypsy now and Ryan. Okay, so Gypsy said basically that her mother taught her that everything was a fairy tale. We live in a fairy tale land. There's princes and princesses, and the prince is going to come to save you. You're the damsel in distress. But then she also told her she would never find love and never be happy.
Exactly.
I found that so as a child, that's got to really mess with your psyche. I have to say, Gypsy she's a hell of a storyteller, and she knows how to play the victim.
Yes, she does.
And and she knows how to suck you in. And I have to say, I like in the beginning when she was I thought, oh, I'm like fake tears. Oh, I can't watch this, because I'm a little annoyed by like all this stuff in the media right now, which I think a lot of people are. I fear she's going to wind up getting canceled until we can really figure out the whole thing here. And it just really sucked me in. And you really feel for her. She definitely knows how to do that, man. I mean, she really should expand her TikTok and tell like stories or something.
Well, if you get a chance, Google The View, and she was on there back in the beginning of January.
I was very impressed that he watched The View.
It's just a 5-minute clip, but she is, and it's surprising when you listen to her talk that she's so much more well-spoken than you thought she would be.
She's very eloquent, and she's very articulate for somebody, but then she did get her GED in prison. So, and in prison, you have a lot of time to read and do stuff like that. So, who knows?
But I was impressed with her in that interview, because she was saying all the right things, and she was saying that the reason she wants the publicity is to advocate for victims.
I'm thinking
whether that's true or not, I don't know. But she seems very sincere when she's talking about it.
She must have had a publicist and stuff too in prison, because she knows exactly what to say. I mean, I don't think they just went and interviewed her in prison willy-nilly. I don't know the background. If anybody knows the background, leave us a comment. We'd really appreciate it. But she definitely, she knew what to say, and she did. If she conducted herself now like she did in those prison interviews, she might be dealing with a very different situation right now, because it's not in your face. It's not, oh, look at my outfit, get ready with me, oh, Ryan, oh, the D is fired. It was really like a serious, and she seemed very mature, and her voice had actually matured too. She was very articulate.
If you saw the act, the first series about her, it wasn't starring her, but that just portrayed her as a very childish, kind of voice, and she does have a high pitched.
Yeah, she does have a childish voice, but nothing like when she got arrested.
No, not at all. No,
and she was concerned about the camera angle, which I found amusing.
As
any woman would be. Well, I get, she's a girl. She wants to look cute. She's young. I'm getting too old to care about that stuff anymore. But yeah, so I guess if I was going to be on TV and I was, 30 and they were interviewing me in prison, I'd be like, but she was concerned about that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So, final impressions. We'll let you go first.
My biggest takeaway from this, and it's actually really not surprising because it's always been my, I don't even know what word to use. It's just unbelievable to me that this woman was able to get away with what she was doing for so long. And the sad thing is the family knew. Now, maybe not her father, because they really haven't gotten into that yet.
No.
And I don't think Gypsy was really around them that much to where I think they were kept abreast of what was going on. So in other words, whatever Dee Dee was saying. But I don't think they knew. But Dee Dee's parents, they knew. They knew that she could eat. They knew that she could walk. And the uncle and the cousin, they're totally... And the grandfather's just weird.
I just had a really good idea. What if the mother said, "Listen, if you rat me out, I'm going to rat you out to her father."
Yeah, I
mean,
don't know.
that definitely could have happened.
Yeah.
See, and I'm not surprised by it. Well, I have watched every episode of Deadly Women.
Yes, you do.
And you've spent a lot of time. Well, you've spent time watching me watch Deadly Women because it terrifies you a little. It
terrifies me a lot.
But you see those women, they're just master manipulators, and it's just amazing. Some people.
Women out there, if you ever want to get your men under control, just start watching Deadly Women.
That's what I do. It was good. When I first met him, I watched a lot of Deadly Women. So that keeps your man in line if you want to keep your man in line. But but you see these people, they're master manipulators, and they're good at what they do. And like I said, I think it's a very long line of manipulation. If Gypsy's grandfather was abusive, he was probably abused. Who knows how long? And in those small southern towns, that kind of stuff is swept under the rug. Plus, there was no school involvement.
None at all.
I mean, had she been sent to school, and different states, and I was telling Pete this, different states have different requirements for homeschooling. So, like in Pennsylvania, I know, because I talk about Pennsylvania and New Jersey. In Pennsylvania,
So yeah, they would have noticed it in school.
I think they would have. Yeah, they would have figured something was
So
up.
it's just amazing to me that nobody stepped up, and they really haven't gotten into the doctors yet. I'm hopeful they will. And the pediatrician they introduced, I'm assuming he was later on.
Yeah.
Not early on, because he was amazed at how many files were there.
What's funny? You said nobody stepped up. Yeah, one person stepped up, and guess what? They're in prison for life. The one person who stepped up.
Yes.
That might be
That's a whole other story.
So we even talk about the wine a little bit more?
Yes, we are. Okay.
I'm going to leave it at that. The one person who stepped up, we see what happened to him. So there you go.
So what do you think of the wine?
I think it's very good. It is fruit forward. It's dry, but it's fruit. I like a wine is like dry and fruity at the same time.
Yeah.
You wine lovers, you understand what I'm saying, right? Like it could be dry and fruity, right? Like the best Chardonnays are dry yet very fruit forward. Yes. So what kind of wine is this?
It doesn't say. It just says
the kind he spilled.
Yes, the Vintner Select.
Vintner Select. Okay,
Yeah.
so this is probably like their blend, right?
Yeah, it's just
Yeah.
a blend.
The Vintner selected this just for us.
But it's from down in Maryland. We didn't. I don't remember this winery. Now we go to so many wineries. They sort of blend. Sometimes when we go down to Maryland, there's just not that many wineries down there that we go to.
It's like, was it like an Edgar Allan Poe theme one? The Crow. It looks like a Poe kind of, right?
Yeah,
It looks like an Edgar Allan Poe
Yeah.
painting or picture if any of y'all ever saw it.
I don't know, but it's
Not that he painted, you know what I mean.
It's near that other winery that we go to, and I don't know why we've never gone back to it.
I don't know.
We'll have to go this summer.
Apparently
though.
we'll have to go again when we
Yeah.
go to Maryland this summer.
But yeah, no, it's very good. I like it.
I like it too. Whatever they reserved for the Vintner,
Yeah, the Vintner.
they
yes.
reserved the best.
Yes, they did. Yes, they did. You selected the best.
So that's our take on Gypsy
On
Rose's
episode
prison
1.
tapes, episode 1. Like I said, we watch it so you don't have to. I would recommend you watch it. Do you recommend it?
Yeah, absolutely. It's disturbing, and it's not disturbing in a just mentally. It's disturbing just knowing all the stuff that.
Do you think the real true crime people get disturbed?
Do you?
I'm it's different for
You
me
are,
because
I'm not, so-
like I'm the teacher that's had to call. I've had to call Child Protective Services so many times. I've seen a lot of horrible things. So
We've actually had them call us while we're sitting down at dinner. Remember that
Yes,
one, right?
yeah, we had a follow-up call from them.
Yeah.
So I get nothing shocks me anymore. It's sad. So
Yeah, but this case, and I'm interested to see the rest of it, just to see how many other people dropped the ball that could have stopped this.
Gypsy,
So far, there's a lot.
if you're listening, more prison tape persona,
Less TikTok.
less of this. Less
Yeah.
of this.
Yeah, do
I'm getting my world rocked
do
every
what
night.
you said you wanted to do during that
exactly.
interview, which
Yes.
was be an advocate.
Yes.
Let people know what's going on, and I think she'd be way better off doing something like that.
Yeah.
But
Because she really has a lot to offer to the world in terms of this,
oh yeah.
and she
And-
really could be a good advocate for kids out there
Did
for
some-
any type of abuse.
One of them said, one of the experts, so-called experts, who was still calling it by the wrong name, so I don't know what kind of expert they were.
Mm-hmm.
But she said that, as far as she knows, this is the only case of this where the victim actually murdered.
Yes.
The,
Yes, she did say that. Yeah.
so
Yeah, because victims don't normally murder.
No.
You know what I mean? And when they do, they spend their life in prison.
yeah,
Even if they're complicit in the murder.
right.
Especially like a lot of abused women and stuff like that. They murder their abusers and then they wind up in prison for life.
Yeah.
But Gypsy's got 5 million followers on TikTok, so
Yes, she does.
So yeah, I mean, I'm stuck between You Go Girl and this is going to implode really fast.
Yeah.
So
I think she needs to tap it down. I mean, she's only been out of jail for, it hasn't even been a month yet, has it?
yeah, no,
It hasn't even been a month yet, I
No.
don't think. So,
no, it hasn't. She was released the end of December. So yeah.
So she
And
needs to
from
relax
what
a
we're
little bit.
seeing with the rumors, not to get all pop culture gossip, but I don't think she's going to get Travis Kelce.
No.
I think she better stick to Ryan for a little while. 'Cause
Yeah.
I think Travis is going to be
I think Travis
popping
is
the
taking
question with $1 million ring. So you
Yeah.
lost your chance there, Gypsy. Oh well. Timing is everything.
Timing is everything, yes.
So we hope you will join us for the next installment in the Gypsy Rose prison tapes as soon as we can watch it.
Yes. Good night, everybody.
Good night.